the Army's communication needs with its army
coming upstairs. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the Department of Posts, Ministry of Communications and IT, I welcome you all to this roundtable on National Postal Policy 2012. May I now request Srimati Manjula Parashar, Secretary, Department of Posts, to deliver her theme address.
Honorable Shri Kapil Sibal, Minister of Communications and IT and HRD, members of the Postal Services Board, my colleagues from the Government of India, the banks, the academia, the stakeholders, representatives from the banks. It's a pleasure for us to hold this roundtable conference, which will help us in deliberating upon the draft national postal policy. In fact, our country is one of the prominent emerging economies. Some time back, Goldman Sachs had said that the two Asian giants will be coming forward as far as economy is concerned, and he had predicted that India would be, by 2050, India would be the third largest economy, and China would perhaps overtake the US. In such a scenario, we have undeniably to admit that the postal sector has been contributing to the social and economic growth of the country, and also in empowering the citizens of our country. It touches the lives of everybody. In spite of that, what has been happening is that over a period of time, the sector has been expanding. There has not been much coordination among various players in the postal sector. There are so many major players, minor players, but the synergy is at the moment not there as it should be. And increasingly the sector is becoming competitive and more complex. The effort now is to define the contours of this expanding postal sector and to identify the major and minor players of the sector, to have a common platform to exchange the market-related information, to exchange best practices that take place in various, which are followed by various players. And there's a lot of scope of coordination, of integration among the various players. The idea is to provide the services a very reliable communication network which meets the needs of physical communication, data flow and financial services. While we had followed this methodology that we had, under the guidance of Honorable Minister of Communications, we had called the subsection of the stakeholders for a meeting before holding this meeting, so that we could have the agenda for today's meet expanded. In fact, the stakeholders who came for the meeting had helped us in giving various items for today's agenda, and also after that the expanded agenda was put on our website. We've got a lot of responses, sir, and a lot of encouraging response, and I'm sure that will help us in drawing up a postal policy. Also, the major issues which the agenda covers. Thank you.
हो गया भैया, बहुत आपने फिर
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for having told us about the theme for today's roundtable. May I now request Shri Sachin Pilot, Honorable Minister of State for Communications and IT, to address the gathering.
Honorable Minister Shri Kapil Sibulji, Ms. Parashar, Secretary, Department of Post, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning. I think what we are gathered here today is itself a very splendid and a noble idea that the Department of Post, which is the world's largest postal network, which employs, as you heard the Secretary say, lakhs of people, and this engaging in activities right from the core ones of distribution of mail to a whole plethora of activities that have been undertaken in the last few years. But I think the time has now come that we have to start looking inwards as well as outward to reinvent the department's activities and create a parameter, a structure, which not only re-energizes the latent abilities of the department and maximizes its potential, but also involves a whole range of stakeholders like the ones who are present in this room. A few months ago, Mr. Sibal has started this first set of roundtables, which was really to engage the corporate sector, because ultimately the Department of Post also needs to explore and exploit other revenue streams to keep its income levels at an appropriate level. While we're not here to make money, but I think everyone understands that Department of Post does need to recreate its revenue models. We also are looking to fully utilize the outreach that the department has. 1,50,000 post offices, 95% of them being in rural areas, I think gives us a tremendous platform to be able to give those government services which perhaps are difficult to reach from other departments and line ministries. Besides the NREGA payments and UID payments, things like giving railway tickets, etc., is possible once we've networked the system. And the Government of India is spending 1,877 crores on modernizing the department. Unless the department is modernized and up to speed with the latest technological developments globally, we will not be able to harness the potential that we have. And also, I think time has come for us to have a policy in place which not only enhances our competitiveness, also opens up the sector for the global standards of quality, of delivery of services, and some benchmarking. I think it's very, very crucial for us to be able to set those standards in place. And I think the best way to do it has been, which has been the policy in this ministry for the last year or so, is to involve everyone together. It's not about the department saying that we want to do this and then just have a diktat, but rather have all stakeholders give their views, to discuss, to deliberate. The department is already written to the RBI for asking for a banking license. Now I think that will open up the doors to easy access to credit to the poorest of our sections of society. That I think will be a game changer. Today we already have about 23 crore savings bank accounts, but we don't have the to give out loans because we don't have a banking license. So Mr. Sibal has written to the finance minister, and the department is working with the RBI to get that banking license. So here are a few activities that we have already been doing, but I think the real objective of the exercise is to hear from all of you so that we can solicit the views of people who can be involved, who are not yet involved fully with the department, so that we can work with a synergy that will help us to add value to the services that we provide, and for all of you and the country as a whole to take advantage of what we have to offer through this very large and a very compelling department. So I just want to be brief and thank the department for organizing, and thank all of you for having come here this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable speech. May I now request Shri Kapil Sibal, Honorable Minister for Communications and IT, to kindly deliver his speech.
My distinguished colleague in the ministry, Sachin, Secretary Parashar, distinguished representatives of the Postal Department, distinguished officials of various ministries present here, distinguished representatives of the private sector. This is not going to be a discourse because we want to hear you. Well, look back at the telecommunications department 20, 30 years ago. What was it? It was the department of the government of India. And all services were delivered by the government. See where that department is today. What's the reason why there is this enormous change that has taken place? It's because we have hived off various activities of the department. You have the private sector playing a very significant role in the telecom sector now. You have the state enterprise as well, which is now incorporated. You have a regulator in place to maintain standards and to ensure that there are no malpractices, and at the same time is futuristic about what policy changes should be put in place in the years to come. And you have enormous products being put in place almost on a daily basis for the sector to grow. The postal department today is in the same position as the telecom department was many, many years ago. And therefore I think that in the context of the information technology revolution, we need to embrace the changes that are taking place around us and have a course, charter a course for the department to move forward to meet the challenges of tomorrow. Just consider this, the total revenues of a small country like Korea is 65,000 crores. Now what are the total revenues of the postal department in India? The less said about it, the better. And that's a small population with a revenue turnover of 65,000 crores. I can give examples in Germany, Australia, because they've moved along with the times. But I think that moment has come, and that idea is ripe now for the postal department to have a policy framework which will be implemented in the next few years to come, and have you participate in that policy framework so that we can have a common vision with the private sector, with other departments of the government of India, ministries of the government of India to move forward. And that is really why we are gathered here today. Sachin rightly mentioned about 155,000 post offices. And this morning I read an interesting article in the Business Standard on the postal bank saying that this is an extremely good idea, because where will you get access in case post offices are allowed banking facilities, access to credit, which a farmer or a person living in remote areas would not have access to, because there are no branches available anywhere. So the enormous possibilities of financial inclusion, and if we make the information highway pass through the postal department and every post office in the country, you can imagine the kind of services that we can offer, or the private sector can offer through its ingenuity for 1.2 billion people of this country. So I think the possibilities are endless, the opportunities are enormous, and the time is right for us to move forward. And with these words, I request you to carry on with the discussion so that we can get some very useful tips from you to formulate our policy and make this department as energetic as the telecom department is and other departments of the government of India. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now we will have the deliberations and open sessions. So the views from everyone present here are invited.
Good morning. I am Samir Kochar, Chairman of the Scotch Group. First of all, I must compliment Department of Post for a very good discussion agenda. It's very focused. Some of the comments that I'd like to make is that underlying all these 10 points that we have in the agenda has to be a PPP framework and some products, because public-private partnership needs to be defined. Most of these objectives would not be met unless we are able to do a good job on that. India Post has been somewhat a better provider of USO than most other departments in the government of India so far, simply because the postman reaches everywhere. At the same time, when you're talking of, reinventing the department, there is a need to learn from some of the other sectors like the financial sector and the telecom sector, where the outreach policies have left a lot to be desired. The reasons for that essentially is that there has been an overemphasis on technology. I see some underlying symptoms of that in this agenda as well. So I think we have to be very wary of, technology becoming an end in itself rather than as an enabler for delivery of service. There seems to be little focus on brick and mortar presence. In fact, where most other sectors have failed is the banking sector in particular, that they do not have brick and mortar presence, and everyone is relying either on BCs or on technology for the outreach. Now, while you have a commendable presence of 150,000 odd post offices, you would find very few of them are actually brick and mortar, specifically the 95% that you are talking about in rural India. So I think Department of Post needs to work on a target of having at least 250,000 brick and mortar post offices, one for each Gram Panchayat, and these have to be physical delivery points, because that's where every business model is failing. The second reason why they have failed is that there is no business case in terms of giving the payments. Now, about the only business case that the entire sector has come across as something that is working and is generating some money is payments and remittances. Now, there is nobody better than Department of Post in handling payments and remittances, and they've been doing that for years. Now, the big challenge there is that this business is not competitive at all in Department of Post. It costs 6% to send a money order versus 2% through other modes of thing. And the volume of this business expected, our projection is about 60,000 crores. So if you go for the volume and not focus so much on profitability, and through a PPP mode, through these points of presence, that could be a good opportunity in that. The third area where everybody has failed is linkage with livelihood. Now, I really am getting scared when I hear things like Department of Post is going to become bank just because you're going to give out the only capability you do not have is to give out credit. I do not what is the capability Department of Post is likely to have to handle NPS. Now, where everyone has failed so far is giving a good linkage with livelihood, whether it's the banking model, whether it's an MFI model. Unless and until Department of Post banking plan is inherently linked with SHGs, with JLGs, and with Panchayati Raj institutions, and is lending only against economic activities, nothing is going to change. So somewhere that linkage with livelihood has to come in, and it has to come in a very big way. Another area where everybody is lacking, and I believe that Department of Post has good expertise, is when you talk about financial inclusion. What does financial inclusion mean? You have to have products of financial inclusion. Now, these could be microcredit, micro savings, micro pensions, micro insurance. You would find that there is an appallingly low level of even availability of these products in the financial sector. There is simply no will to do it. And also there is a regulatory landmine that you have to tread to be able to do that. Now, I do not know how Department of Post proposes to deal with multiple regulators like RBI, IRDA, SEBI, and so on and so forth. Ideally, it should be actually independent of all these regulators. I mean, I do not know why are you inviting trouble by applying to RBI. You are an independent bank. You have been lending money to the poor. You've done that in Tamil Nadu. So how did you do that? Why do you need an RBI license? Because that is like, inventing enemy in your home. Pardon me for using very strong words, but RBI is singularly responsible for financial inclusion not happening in India, and they'll ensure once they come into your area that it doesn't happen in Department of Post either.
Anybody from RBI sitting here to hear that comment?
Last but not the least is that there also seems to be a lack of capacity all around. It's not true only for Department of Post, it is true for practically every ministry. There is very little capacity within the ministry to understand the cross-domain issues. While you may understand post very well, but you may not understand credit or livelihood very well. So there is an emphasis that you have put here on getting global best practices, so on and so forth. Unfortunately, what happens is that, just the glamour of global best practices hijacks the agenda at times. There is nothing in the world that is comparable to India. If you try comparing it with places like Africa and so on and so forth, there's very little that they have done in any case. So we have to actually develop our own business models, and there we find that there is no engagement framework. Now, if you come up with an RFP, you will find that no organization which has got any claim to fame locally will ever qualify. The answer to that is that, you need to engage with the private sector organization perhaps in an advisory capacity, who could then help you understand what the global guys are saying and link it to the ground reality in India. So that is a very crucial missing link, and we find almost all outreach initiatives in India again have failed because of that. You have a very ambitious modernization program, the ICT enablement. We saw what happened with UID. It was totally derailed because of vendor walls. So again, suggestion would be that, while Department of Post has done a good job of rolling out these tenders and these 8 RFPs that are there, if you walk the straight and the narrow, I mean, you've qualified people technically, and if you do it commercially, rather than getting into very creative interpretation of who's done what would happen is that then the world will lose interest. The global industry today has lost interest in UID, and we do not want that to happen in Department of Post, because this is one of the most far-reaching transformative projects that the whole world is looking at that is happening in India. UID, of course, is the other one. So I would suggest that let India be in driver's seat. While we will pick up global best practices from other places, but I think Indians know best what is good for India. I think I've almost given a speech, so I'd end there and maybe give a couple of additional comments later if required.
Sir, I'm R.K. Sabu from Express Industry Council of India. I must thank Department of Post and FICCI for organizing this roundtable. And sir, since I belong to express industry, I would like to just briefly talk about what the express industry is all about. And but at the outset, let me thank Honorable Minister Sri Kapil Sibal and Sri Sachin Pilot for this opportunity. Sir, the express and the courier delivery services provide door-to-door, on-time, guaranteed, very reliable services across the world, of course, including India. And the movement of the shipment can be tracked and controlled by the IT involvement. So in a way, the express industry control the complete distribution process right from its place of production to the place of consumption. So the express industry is approximately 10,000 crore industry and growing at the rate over 15% every year, and it contributes approximately 1,500 crore in the government kitty as a tax, that is service tax and the other taxes. Of course, employs around 1 million people directly. Strong relationship between the growth in international trade and the logistic infrastructure. In developing countries like India, an efficient logistic infrastructure can reduce the cost of transportation and thereby contributes directly to the country's international competitiveness. EDS, that is Express Delivery Services, is an example of new service sector within the logistics service sector that is growing at a fast pace and has a strong interlinkage with other sectors like IT and the transport industry, which provide the just-in-time delivery of goods. So more and more companies in India and globally are using the express industry as part of their regular logistic. They are likely to become more important in future as the world economy become increasingly integrated. So the service provided by the express industries are used by the company across the business spectrum. That could be the IT, telecommunication, financial services, the pharmaceutical, electronics, retail, textile, and etc. Sir, in order for the EDS industry to grow and attract domestic and foreign investment in a vital sector of the economy, the government should continue to facilitate through open and transparent policies. Sir, some time back there was a committee was formed where I was also part of the committee, and out of that, whatever was discussed, I would like to just briefly touch upon a few issues which are concerning our express and the courier industry. So based on the experience in other countries, the postal reforms should keep in the following views when the national policy is made. Sir, the express everywhere is outside the purview of regulator. Internationally, the regulators are created when the postal sectors open up, and there to regulate the incumbent operator, the national post sector, so as they do not abuse their dominant position when the basic postal sector, USO, is opened up. Express industry in India is highly competitive, very, very competitive. It works on a wafer-thin margins, and price and quality is market-driven. I mean, consumer today have a variety of choice depending on the price and service they want, and they immediately make a choice and shift from one operator to another service provider. A regulator would not be effective and would only add on to the ultimate, lot of cost to the consumer. Courier services, last time when we were having that discussion, and so it was said that to know about the whereabouts of the courier company, the registration and sort of a licensing is essential. So today all the courier companies, they fall under the service tax preview regime, and so it is very easy to know about the whereabouts of the courier